Check it out.
Every single year, starting at third wheel, which was in 2012, I looked forward to each year when a brand new Wimpy Kid book came out. But before the books come out, we would have a cover reveal. But lately each cover seems to spark such a strong reaction from me, good and bad, and even in between. So, let's look back at each Wimpy Kid cover and overanalyze them to see how each new cover has changed over the years, and if they are getting worse or better than what they used to be. Starting with Book 1, that's just called Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Okay, so Book 1 cover is obviously such a classic, and is definitely one of the most recognizable kids' book covers ever created. The fact that it is so simple is why it's brilliant. Other books that are similar to Wimpy Kid, such as Dork Diary and Diary of a Rugby Champ, overdo it with the doodles and the textures and the fancy cartoony titles, which might be foreshadowing to what might happen in actual Wimpy Kid books. We will see. Book 1's cover actually looks like a real-life notebook diary that Greg had stuck a piece of ripped paper on with a doodle of himself is genius. That's why when the live-action movies came out, it was so easy to create an actual diary for him, because they basically just copied the actual kid's book, but just took off the words of a Wimpy Kid, and boom, it became real. The simple drawing of Greg with his backpack is perfect too. The book is mostly about Greg in school. The red is also a good choice, for it being the first book too. Red is the first color in the rainbow. If the book was any other color, it would not look right. Hate to keep bashing other books, but with Diary of a Rugby Champ, the spine and the two triangles in the corners change colors with each book. You can't tell what book number the Diary of a Rugby Champ is. Is this number 1? Is this number Book 1? You have no idea unless you Google it or look at the spine or back. Not too sure. Wait, when writing this script, I just saw this post on Reddit. Okay, brown would also work as a first book color. Anyways, the cover of Book 1 is such a classic cover that I don't think has a single flaw. It's iconic, it stands out against other kids' books, and it just gets its point across beautifully. Okay, now for Book 2. The second book is called Roderick Rules, and just like the first one, it's also pretty iconic. Of course, as the book is about Greg's brother Roderick, he gets to be on the cover with Greg, but again, the drawing is pretty simple. It doesn't have to be over the top. Greg and Roderick don't get along, and this is perfectly illustrated by the simple drawing of Greg being pushed by his older brother. Of course the color is blue, which I'm sure doesn't really represent anything. Was just chosen for a second book since the first book is red. If it was another bright color, like yellow or orange, it would look too similar to the first book. But as it's a dark color, the opposite of Book 1, it's a good choice. Also, the title is written in a font that I can only describe as messy, which could mean it was written by Roderick. I don't have too much more to say about this cover, but I will say it's a perfectly fine second book cover that matches Book 1 in its simplicity while also standing out on its own. Now for Book 3. The third book is called The Last Straw, and even though I don't have too much to say about this cover also, I do love it just as much as the second and first book. The drawing is Greg looking stressed, only wearing his underwear, and is against a corner. So far, with each new book, his facial expression gets more expressive. He's clenching his teeth and has sweat coming off him. It's the third book, so now the picture is allowed to be a little extra. Green is also a good choice, but there's no reason to why. At least, I can't think of one. It's just a good choice. I guess if I have to say something about the color, I guess it's a middle ground between being a bright color and being a dark color. It's mixed, so when on the shelf with the other two books, it doesn't look strange, as it's not bright book, and dark book, or bright book, dark book, bright book. It's bright book, dark book, mutual book. Also, the Last Straw title is just plain white with the font looking like it's painted. It's a nice cover for Book 3. Now for book 4. The fourth book is called Dog Days. Now that the first book, the bright book, has 2 books in front of it now, we can return to having a bright color again. So of course we have yellow, which is a perfect choice as the whole book is about summer, which usually represents sunny time. If that wasn't clear enough, the drawing also has a sun in it. The picture also has Greg with his frowny face again, but that's okay, for now at least, because Greg is wearing beach wear and has a towel and ice cream, so the picture stands out from the first cover's picture. The title Dog Days is written in this spray-painted font. Not too sure why, but it works well and stands out against the brightly book. As I'm sure you've noticed, the colors of Wimpy Kid and the diary text change colors, usually the opposite color of the book color. If it's a dark book, the text will be a bright color. If it's a bright color book, such as yellow, the color of the Wimpy Kid will be a darker shade color. They choose red for it, which is perfect as it still makes it stand out, but without taking away from the theme, which is bright hot summertime. The diary color is orange, which also fits the theme, and because diary doesn't need to stand out, it's the similar shade to the book texture color. Now for book 5. The 5th book is called The Ugly Truth, and even though it's one of the best in the series, it's the first time I think the cover isn't quite perfect. While it features the same great design elements as the other books, the cover has a darker color scheme, which is acceptable since it's been 2 books since Roderick Rules. So, why isn't the cover perfect like the others? Well, it's the image. I know you might feel nostalgic about it, but it's a bit confusing. What is Greg sitting on? A rock, a tiny haystack, or a gravestone? He's wearing his school bag, so is he at school? He has the egg he's supposed to look after in the book, but that doesn't really represent the theme of puberty. Plus, Greg has the same frown as in the last book, which annoys me a little. If I were to redo the drawing, I'd depict Greg looking in a mirror and noticing a pimple, or maybe holding a bottle of deodorant and looking stinky under his armpits. Regardless, I think the cover illustration could be better. Other than that, it's still a solid cover, just like the others. Now on to book 6. The 6th book is called Cabin Fever, and this was the newest book in the series when I first became a fan. I was randomly at school when a classmate told me about the upcoming release, and for some reason, I didn't believe her.
Why the fuck you lying?
As a kid, I was a bit naive, thinking the entire series was already out. More books? That was inconceivable to my young mind. A week later, she brought the new book to school, proving me wrong. At that time, I was still searching for book 4, which I could never find at the shops. They were so popular that every kid was borrowing them from the library. So, the newest book didn't interest me until I read Dog Days. Anyway, the cover is really appealing, a lovely light baby blue that evokes cold ice. Cabin Fever is written in a sharp font that resembles icicles. I really like the illustration of Greg looking out the window at the snow with his little brother, Manny, who plays a major role in this book. The cover beautifully represents the theme of being stuck indoors due to snow. Now for book 7. Book 7 is called The Third Wheel, and it was the first cover I eagerly anticipated. I can't recall how they revealed it, but I remember there was a pre-order on the website with a sneak peek image, hinting that it was about girls and love, which excited me. The cover illustration is one of my favorites. Sure, Greg still has that frown, but at least his hair is all out of place, and he has dirt on his face and clothes. His outfit is a nice change. He's in a fancy getup. He holds a box of chocolates and flowers, which is a nice touch. The book cover is a rich, dark chocolate brown, representing chocolate. Since the book is about love, a pink cover could have worked, but I highly doubt they would make a classic pink cover, as the books are primarily targeted toward boys. We can't have a kid bullied for reading a Wimpy Kid book. The brown cover looks good, so I'm glad they chose that color. Now for Book 8. Book 8 is called Hard Luck, and this was one of my favorite cover reveals from the series. I desperately tried to find a screenshot or something to see it again, but I think it's gone forever. The Wimpy Kid website had a drawing of an 8-ball you could click on, and it would shake and reveal the answer to whatever question you asked, just like a real Magic 8-ball. It also had a countdown, and I remember waiting for it, knowing I would have to wake up at 4 a.m. for the reveal. So, guess what I secretly did, even though my parents didn't want me to? That's right, I stayed up. It was worth it. The cover reveal made me even more excited for the book, which was agonizing to wait for. Speaking of the cover, I think this is actually my favorite from the entire series. The Reign of 8 Balls is incredibly creative. Greg's facial expression is the most expressive so far, as he hides behind his book while running. It's a perfect illustration for the story. Since the book is all about luck, they use the color of a 4-leaf clover, which represents luck. The font for Hard Luck is nice, with the U shaped like a horseshoe, also a symbol of luck. Apparently, it's due to ancient beliefs that iron wards off evil spirits. Cool, I guess. Even though it's Book 8, it's still a perfect cover, and very iconic to me. Now for Book 9. Book 9 is called The Long Haul, and it features a nice orange color. For some reason, everyone seemed to believe the cover would be orange, since there was an art contest before the book reveal, with most entries colored orange. Maybe there was more information about the book that I didn't find before the reveal. Spoilers! Lately, with the newer books, they give hints about the title, and it's often guessed correctly right away. Regarding the Long Haul cover, I don't have a strong opinion about it. It's good and serves its purpose, but it's nothing spectacular. I suppose Hard Luck raised the bar for cover designs. Orange doesn't really symbolize anything significant for me. Perhaps it represents the dirt road they travel on, but those roads are usually black with white lines, so I'm not sure. Greg is in the back of the car, which makes sense for an illustration. The flat tire and dirty car are good touches to show their travel troubles, but the cover is still nothing too special. It does its job. What more can I say? Next, we have the 10th book, and things start to take a turn with the cover design. Book 10 is called Old School. The cover is black, which makes sense because old photos used to be in black and white. However, I think the cover could have been gray instead. I also dislike the font for the title. Old School is written in a spray-painted style that stands out from all the previous titles. Every other title used a simple color with a straightforward font, and it doesn't make much sense to use spray paint to represent old times. If they wanted a spray-painted look, they should have chosen a less flamboyant design. I even did some photoshopping to illustrate what I mean. I believe the next book should have started a trend of more adventurous titles to represent the next era of books. Each set of 10 books seems to have a change in cover design. However, Old School is the weakest cover of the first 10 books. Additionally, the illustration isn't great. Sure, it makes sense for Greg to be holding an older music device, but I think there were much better ideas that could have been chosen to reflect the theme of the past. Let me list a few ideas here that you could read. I can't be bothered to draw them. So, yeah, this cover isn't very impressive. It was also disappointing, because it was revealed during a live stream where the author unveiled it at a school in America. I stayed up late for the reveal, and went to bed feeling let down. Now for Book 11. The 11th book is called Double Down, and we need to talk about the elephant in the room with this one. Double Down is written in a cheese font when the book has nothing to do with the cheese touch. I don't even think it has a single reference in this book. Maybe a mention? I can't remember. Regardless, the cover is basically a hype piece for something that doesn't have a payoff and that, my friend, is a terrible cover design. It's like a super clickbait YouTube thumbnail. The book also starts the trend of having the side be an aligned color pattern, this being yellow and red. That's cool, I guess. The red is a brighter red from the first book, which I guess is the point, as it's trying to look similar to the first book, but double down on it. Greg having a bigger backpack, showing how his life is getting harder, I guess. It's nice that we get a new face for Greg on the cover, with his tongue being shown instead of just a fully black mouth. But it's the cheese font that really ruins the cover. I think this is the second worst cover, Book 10 being first. Now for Book 12. Book 12 is called The Getaway. It's a brighter blue from the second book and has a green and blue pattern on the spine. The font design for The Getaway isn't anything special. I think it might be trying to reference a resort font or something, not too sure. The drawing is Greg in a plane looking out the window. I wish we didn't black out Manny and Roderick, as it would have been nice to see them. Maybe even have Manny doing something to be annoying Greg, like throwing a teddy bear at him or something. Something to just give the drawing a little bit more. Plane also looks tiny on the picture, but I guess they wanted people to know it's a plane without shrinking Greg's head down, as they always keep his head and body the same size on all the covers. For some reason, the first 9 covers really didn't need too much on them, and they looked really good. But since the 10th book, they seem like they are missing something and are pretty bland. Maybe it's because they're using similar colors to before, but I definitely think the covers needed a change up to add more to them. I think they realized that too, as with the next cover, they added an extra feature. Next is Book 13. Book 13 is called The Meltdown, and it's the first time the cover's main color is multiple colors at once. I wonder if they stick to that idea from now on. They decide to have a fade color, which is dark purple to a park pink. I think this was the thing that was missing. The spine having a multicolor pattern design was a good idea to change things up, but it didn't complete the design and still had the book look bland. But now with the spine and the main color faded to 2 different colors, it does work. The Meltdown font is in a melting ice font, which works well and makes sense. The picture is good too for the cover, but it does start the lazy trend of Greg being put in something or being covered by something, and that just being the drawing. Also hate that his facial expression is the normal frown. Why not have Greg looking like he's sweating? It would be confusing as he's in a snowman but also feeling hot, which is the theme of the book, that being weird changes in the weather. I guess the reason I get so annoyed about the face is because, even though we don't discuss it in this video, his facial expression picture is on the spine of each book. So when it's the same facial expression almost 3 times in a row, it annoys me. The cover is a step up from the previous 2, so let's see if they keep it up. Now to Book 14. Book 14 is called Wrecking Ball, and holy cow! Do they change up the cover design entirely from this point? I guess they thought that multiple colors that fade together wasn't enough of a change. Like, imagine if this was the next book. Yes, it took me a while to make this. Hope you like it. So, this era of covers I like to call the texture era, where they use textures based off the theme to create the covers. Like, let's say a book is about camping in a forest. The texture could be tree bark. With Book 14, the book is about their home being destroyed, so they had a gray cracking pavement texture. The drawing is Greg inside the broken remains of his house. It's a decent drawing, but what annoys me, nitpicky as it is the weird highlight on the wrecking ball. It's an actual faded highlight, and not just a white circle or something like what you'd usually expect. It's just weird how it's inconsistent. Greg also has the same frown as the last 2 books, but at least Greg has a line under his eye. They could at least have also added a bruise, or something to show Greg has been damaged from the wreck. I really do love the font style though. Broken lettering works really well. It's basically the classic fonts, but with cracks and broken letters, which makes sense for the cover. Also, instead of the snitches in the book, we instead have nails, which is pretty cool and definitely really shows a change in the design moving forward. Now for Book 15. Book 15 is called The Deep End, and man, I really love the cover, even if it's a terrible book. The texture is the bottom of an aqua blue pool with water. The piece of paper doesn't even have sticky tape on it, and instead is just floating at the top of the water, which is also shown by having the shadow the paper makes be darker and shown more. The spine has the same colors they use for the side of a pool, which is a good detail. It looks extremely similar to most pools I've been to. The title also used plastic blown up letters that float on the water. I'm not too sure why, but the drawing feels like a classic cover drawing, so I wouldn't make any changes to it. It's such a great cover. Now for Book 16. Book 16 is called Big Shot and uses the texture of a sports shirt or something. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Maybe one of you can tell me what the texture is supposed to mean, but regardless, we get a color we haven't got before: white. The font of the title uses the Sports University logo text, which is nice. It's hard to notice, but the diary text is sewn onto the shirt, which is cool. It's nice that he wears a headband, which helps to make his face different, but they could have added a mark on his face or something to show he's been injured by sports. Now for Book 17. Book 17 is called Diaper Overload, which the texture being a black speaker. What's interesting about this one is that the stripes on the spine are made of duct tape. They aren't all the same piece of tape either. They got different designs and shapes, which is cool. Diaper Overload is written in the font of the band and is shiny gold, including the diary word. The drawing is also pretty cool, with Greg rocking out with a guitar on stage while wearing a metal outfit. This is the first time we see Greg with his eyes closed on the cover, which gives the book extra points for being original. Really decent cover. Sadly, not a good book. Now for Book 18. Book 18 is called No Brainer and is another really great cover. Might be my second favorite. The texture is a black board, but the board is emerald green, which is nice. The diary word is written in chalk along with the title. The board is covered in math equations and calculations. It's super simple, but a really nice effect. The drawing of Greg is really good too. With his head being open, it really is a unique face for him. The only thing I would change would give him a thinking tongue just like this, just to add a little extra depth to the drawing. It's such a great cover regardless. Now for Book 19. Book 19 is called Hot Mess, and it's the first time I felt the cover was a bit too much. I think the problem was the pattern of the texture. The red and white squares should have been 3 times bigger, I think, like this. The spaghetti on the book is a good touch though, so I'd definitely keep that. Again, more instances of Greg just being in a pile of something with his normal frown, and that being the picture. How about something more fun? Like maybe an Indiana Jones reference with Greg being chased by a gigantic meatball, and the vines are spaghetti strands hanging. The Hot Mess cover isn't really that great, but it's a decent book at least. Now for Book 20, the final book that has been published, but not the final cover. Book 20 is called Party Pooper. Side note, I think the name should have been Pity Party, since that makes even more sense for the story. But regardless, the cover is one that has to grow on you. I didn't like it at first, but now I kinda do. The cover texture is icing from a cake, as it's birthday themed. There's sprinkles and pieces of chocolate, which look nice. This book definitely doesn't help when you're on a diet, because you're going to start craving a chocolate cake. The diary is written in rainbow letters, and the letter I is a candlestick from a cake, which is pretty neat of a detail. When I first saw this cover, I assumed that starting now, The diary word will be detailed like this, with the book's theme from this point forward. We will see with book 21. The title of the book is written with golden party balloons in the shape of the letters. Really nice. And that's exactly what I had predicted for how they'll do it when I first heard the book was going to be about birthdays. However, when designing, I assumed the balloons will be multicolored. Again, we have another drawing with Greg being in a pile of something. Greg is inside a birthday cake. Luckily, this drawing is really good, so I don't mind it too much. Greg also has a nice new face look with him, having a mouthful of cake, and is wearing a party hat. Most people don't seem to like this cover, but I think it's pretty good. It was also a good way to have a pink cover, without it looking too girly. Now, finally, book 21. This book hasn't came out yet, but we did get the cover reveal. The 21st book is called Fight or Flight. The texture is of scrambled eggs with strips of bacon as the spine, and with random feathers all over the cover. Diary is shiny, looking like it's been cooked. The title is one of the most standout font art we have ever had with it, looking like some type of font that would pop up just before a round of fighting with boxing or wrestling. It makes sense, but it's just a bit too much in my opinion. Greg is drawn wearing a chicken suit, which is definitely out there for drawing design. He's also pooped an egg. So far I don't really like this cover, but it could grow on me. I think the face of Greg makes us okay, but could be better. He's in a fight. Maybe have him be angry for a change. So there you have it. All 21 book covers talked about. If you like this content and want to see more, hit that subscribe button.